Hey, what is up, everyone? Welcome to the recap of the Walking Dead universe. We are here live every week to discuss the latest episode. You can catch our recaps at any time, available on most major podcast platforms. Get new and past episodes for free in the app of your choice, including YouTube. Today, we are covering Season 1, Episode 5 of TWD, Daryl Dixon. For those of you joining us live tonight, thanks for taking time out of your evening to be here. I'm your host, Tamara, and I love a good TV show and a good book. You can reach out to me pretty much anywhere at the Recap Pods, and if you're into books, you can also find me at Shelf Addiction. Joining me is show co-host Lisa. Welcome, Lisa.
Hello, Tamara. Hello, everyone. My name is Lisa Orban. I am an author. I am also the founder of Indies United Publishing House, and I love all things pop culture. So if you'd like to connect with me online, you can find me pretty much everywhere at Lisa Orban Author or at Indies United Pub.
All right, so before we get started, we'd like to remind you that we do want your participation in this conversation. So if you are listening live, hit us up in the comments section. If you are catching this on a replay, you can still comment on any platform, or you can even use the voicemail link in the show notes. If you are new to the podcast, we are laid back in our review style, right, Lisa?
Absolutely, Tamara. This is a conversation, not a dissertation.
No scene by scene breakdowns here. We jump around a lot. And of course, huge spoiler alert for everything, every show in the world through yesterday's episode. So if you're cool with that, this is the place for you. And we should just jump into it.
Yeah.
So we were hearing episode 5 is it. It's supposed to be the bomb.com. Did it deliver?
I enjoyed it. I don't know if I would call it the bomb, but I did like it.
Same. I've liked it. It wasn't the again, I'm like you. I wouldn't say it's like a triple gold star rating or anything, but it was definitely entertaining. And guess who didn't fall asleep?
You.
So that's yeah, that's a win. I was fully engaged. That was a full on
Nice.
win. I didn't even have
Yeah,
to hit rewind, so that's a win.
I did, but it was because I had the um subtitles on,
Hmm.
and then it was saying speaking in French over the French. I had to rewind it and take off the subtitles.
Oh man, yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah. I'm like, why are you telling me speaking in French? Don't tell me that.
I don't know what TV you have because my TV it will stop. Like I do leave subtitles on too, but mine will stop when they start speaking French. The very first line will say speaking in French, but after that, I can see the translation from AMC.
It depends on how fast they're talking.
Uh huh.
So
Hmm.
if they're talking really fast, it'll like bleep, so it'll say speaking in French over like the first sentence, and then I'll get the rest.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, I need to know what that said. So I had to
Got
turn
to
off the
rewind.
subtitles.
Okay, I get it. I get it. So I'm just happy it was a successful episode for us both. We both liked it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if we just start like just jump in as we do, I think I liked the dual timeline of storytelling. I always like context through flashbacks. I do like
Mm-hmm.
it, and this episode did it really well. I don't think it was too heavy on either side, and I'm pretty satisfied with how Daryl got to where he was. What about you?
I am too. I mean, so we know that he did contact Carol. So that's how so we had discussed, well, how would she even know where to look for him? He told her where she
Mhm.
was. and
Yeah.
and it and I got really excited for a second there because I saw it in the end credits, Melissa McBride. And I'm like, oh
Mhm.
yeah, voiceover. Never mind, never mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I do think completely up just because of this. I was watching the previews or yeah, the previews for next week really closely,
Mhm.
and there's one shot of a woman screaming, and you see like a quarter of her face, and I'm kind of thinking it's Carol.
Hmm. That wouldn't surprise me because I thought she would be in the last episode this whole time. I thought if they
Mm-hmm.
were going to have her here, it would be the final episode, maybe way at the end or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um and I think that laying the groundwork for him having this conversation with her was like it made sense because now we know she has breadcrumbs to follow, right?
Right.
Uh,
I'm
we
in
know,
Maine. I'm at this encampment. Yada yada yada. He
right?
got. He was there because he started a. So these guys were picked up and put on the ship because they got into a fight.
Yeah, they were
And
food for
I'm
walkers.
right. But I'm thinking, I'm like, well, I wonder if at the end of this run, if they were just going to put everyone on that ship. You know.
I'm gonna say no because they needed the walkers for them to study, right? Because they had all these
Yeah.
requirements, and I think they were gonna let the people just walk away with the pints and quarts of gas, and they need the people to
Yeah.
keep doing it. But hey, if you're gonna break the rules, we'll just use you for food. I don't
Although
think
I
they.
kind of yeah, and you can see that they weren't really discriminatory because Daryl had a fit because they killed that kid and turned him into a walker, and apparently no points were given for that.
Well, I mean, if you're following it to the letter, fight is against the rule. They don't care what the reason for the fight. They don't
Right.
have time for court. They trying to get these things out of
Exactly.
here and throw people in for food, which I never even considered feeding them before. I didn't know
Well, you
people
could see that
actually
there
did
was
that.
there was a set of them because they had one that was feed and one that said starve.
I know, but this is the first time I've ever seen in this universe, like, even the idea that the walkers needed to be fed at all. Like,
Well,
even
I
what
think
we
it's
were
part of
doing
the
with the CRM, they didn't feed them.
right. Well, I think that was part of the experiment because they had a whole bunch of different experiments going on. So I think they wanted to see what the difference in the walkers between the ones that they fed and the ones that they starved, or if there
Yeah,
was a
that makes
difference between
sense.
them. You have your control group, and then you have the one that you add an element to, which is a person in this case.
People, yeah, many persons. I wonder how many they fed over the time of like trying to load this ship to leave. Like,
Yeah.
how many
Well,
people did they
obviously, I
kill?
mean, they they would have had to have had at least some because we see that there was other people in the cage to begin with.
Mhm.
So I don't know if they just are taking the rule breakers or if they're picking up random people. We'll probably never know.
Mm-mm. And
But
we don't know how long they were there either. They could have been there a couple of weeks, a couple of
right.
days. We don't know. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I thought that I believed it. That's why I'm like, okay, just make it make sense for me how he
Mm-hmm.
got
Well,
there.
and
And
they were very specific in their requirements. No children. Um, no one with dwarfism. They had to be at least what was it, 5'4", I think is what
yeah,
they said was the minimum height. Uh, the fresher the more they got for them, and I think there was something else too, but I don't remember what it was now. But they, if they didn't meet that criteria, then you didn't get paid. And Daryl was doing pretty good, honestly. He could have gotten enough gas to get home with one more
he did. I
run.
mean, he that first round, he had like a big canister for gas. They weren't giving him a small container. He got really good
Right.
walkers on his first time out, and
Well,
he's
he
like,
got
"Oh,
so
there'll
many
be
of them.
more tomorrow." He's like, he wants to get
Yeah.
them and get out of there, right? We know
Right.
from his phone
Well,
call
and
he doesn't plan on being there for long.
right. Well, and you can see. I mean, unlike the others, he was using that stick to guide him and everything else. And that one group, what was it, 3 guys, 4 guys, whatever it was. Um, they're looking at him going, "Are you?" Because they were struggling to get all their walkers in a row, and here comes Daryl with his stick and his long line of walkers.
Yeah, I mean, he's really good at dealing with the walkers, fighting them, controlling them. He's good at all the things. So that doesn't surprise me
Mm-hmm.
at all. I wasn't surprised. Um, I did
Oh
kind of
no.
feel sad for that little boy though. Like,
Oh, I did too.
dang.
And I wonder how much, I wonder how much guilt Daryl actually has because Daryl kept blowing him off, and Daryl could have taken this kid with him,
Yeah,
but
he didn't
you
want
know,
to though. And I get it, like how many people do you want to start investing your time with? It's like a
right.
tricky thing. You don't want to get involved with everyone's life, but you see what
Well,
happens
and
when you do.
I also get the feeling because we had these little, these little flashes of other places that he's been, and um, he's not real impressed with what he's found. You can tell.
Yeah,
And when the kid was, he's like, "Well, where are you gonna? Is anywhere better than here? Yeah, California." Oh,
so you
well,
think.
so you think.
Yeah, you
And
don't
he
know.
doesn't go into details, but but he's pretty much he told the one guy earlier in the season, Texas is gone. That's as close as we've gotten so far to saying that there's been a nuclear war there. Texas is
Mhm.
gone. California apparently isn't all that great. Um, and they also dropped the thing where when he was talking to Carol, blank is back. Who's back?
Yeah, there's been a lot of discussion
So,
about that online since yesterday evening. And
mm-hmm.
I'm of the I don't think it was I don't think it was Rick. I don't think she was saying Rick. I think that it would be too obvious and people want it so badly. That's not it.
I think it's Negan.
Negan's back.
Negan's back.
Negan came back
Mm-hmm.
from
That's my
what?
guess.
From New
I
York?
think it's a way to I think it's a way to tie him in to what's going on with Dead City.
Well, let's okay, so the timing is supposed to be aligned, right? So he would have to come
Mm-hmm.
back from New York.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how they're going to explain this. I don't think it's him. I don't think it's him either. Because even when Daryl was telling Laurent about his friends and family, he didn't mention Maggie. You notice that? Maggie's name was not said.
Yeah, but
So,
at the same time, Maggie was already there. When he left, Maggie was still part of the community when he left. So her being back wouldn't be something that, unless I mean, I don't know how much they have talked on the road either.
I don't know. I
But
think
Maggie's
Negan
been
is an
back.
odd one. Not impossible, but a little strange. I think maybe Dwight
Like I said, I think maybe Morgan.
or Morgan. Morgan, Dwight.
Morgan would make sense. Morgan
Yeah,
would make sense
it
because he was
would.
headed out looking for Alexandria.
Mhm.
So that would
Yeah.
actually make sense, Morgan.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with that for
Yeah.
now.
Um yeah, cuz I just don't think like that communication that they had was not easy going. It wasn't like they had a lot of time. They didn't know when it would
Right.
fail. He doesn't care about Negan. Like what? That doesn't make sense to me. And for Rick, if it were Rick, I feel like that would have been the first thing out of her mouth, not like the fourth thing.
Exactly. So if it was
So,
Rick, that would be in. But Morgan, that would be he would be up there, but not on the top of the list.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I could
And
see
I
that.
did find it weird that he kept asking Carol, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" Like he asked her like 3 times or something. I'm like, what
Well,
is
she
going on where he has to keep asking her that?"
well again, part of the reason why I was leaning towards Negan is because the whole powers thing going on in New York, and the way she was answering certain things was a little odd for her. She sounded a little stilted.
Hmm. I don't know. I guess we'll have to see. Uh I don't think we'll get the answer to that this season at
No,
all. Even if she shows up in the end, it's not going to be brought up until next season.
could be because like I said, when the first time he asked her, "Are you okay?" Well, you never have to worry about me, which is a very deflective thing for her to say.
Mhm. But I feel like she
which
said that
usually
in the
indicates, yeah, there
past.
really is something wrong.
But she said that in the
She
past,
has, and
that's her
but it's
MO.
always meant something was actually wrong.
Yes, but she doesn't like to say.
So,
So, I don't know.
mm-hmm.
I can think of a couple different situations where she's like, "I'm fine. Don't worry about me. I'm good." She does that a lot. So I don't know if that's
Right.
necessarily an alarm ringing or not, but for something bad.
But I think that's why. But I think that's why he asked her more than once if she was okay, because she was, every time he asked her, she gave a deflective answer, not a definitive one.
Mhm.
So I
Mm.
think there is something wrong, but it's hard to say what it could be.
Mhm. Huh. Okay. Well, I guess we'll all have to wait and see because there seems to be a lot of different opinion about who she's talking about on the call. But I like
Oh,
that
it
they
could be
made the
anybody.
connection, and I like that
Oh
they're
yeah.
opening the door for her to show up, so that will eventually make sense. It won't be this surprise, "I'm here," and you're like, "What?"
Mm-hmm.
So they did their
And again,
work on the
because I mean, if
plot.
she, cause, yeah, because I'll be back in a week, and I'm sure she would probably
Mhm.
would have given him two. And if he still didn't show up, Carol, being Carol, would have gone to look for him. As long as she was able, she would have found where they were at and followed the breadcrumbs further to, you know, to France.
Yeah, because they were
So,
almost there when he jumped off the ship,
uh
because
huh,
there's no way he was on that little boat for, like, I don't know, days and days and days. I feel like they
yeah.
were in proximity maybe a
Well,
couple
in
of days.
this is a, yeah. I mean, this is a powered ship, so I mean, even only doing about 15 knots or so, I mean, they could get across the ocean less than a week.
Right. Right.
So,
So we didn't know, like, they didn't
and they
show us
fed
a
him at
time
least,
lapse of how long he was
yeah.
gone on the ship from A to B, but I think that he was closer to the destination than further when he jumped off.
I mean, if you count the number of people that were in the cage to, by the time that Daryl and that guy decided to work together to get out, they were the last two in the cage. So at least three people had been fed to the walkers.
Mhm.
So if they were feeding him every day, it'd be about 3 days out.
Mhm.
If they were feeding him every other day, it'd be about six.
Mhm. Mm. I know, interesting. I liked it. I liked that part a lot. I needed it
Mm-hmm.
because I kept saying,
Well,
"Please explain this," and they did. So I got what I
the
wanted.
ship is also the ship is also a research vessel, because all those different containers and stuff had different experiments going on.
Mhm.
So it wasn't just for transport, they were also using this as a lab.
Right.
So when Daryl let all those zombies go, all the walkers go in all the different containers, it means it messed up their experiment, because now they're all mixed up.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, I mean, that also, I think, gave strength to the whole, like, not only did we see in real time of them practicing and things like that, but, running experiments. I guess we saw the scientist on this. Did you notice the scientist was with this group?
Mm-hmm.
So it
Well, I
kind of
think
like ties back.
he was, yeah, because I think when that very first episode, I'm pretty sure that that scientist was talking to uh, Jenna, Janae, and saying, well, our experiments are kind of ruined, but we can recoup.
Mhm.
So whatever they had going on ongoing on that ship, because I think that's where I think that was their primary research vessel,
Seems like it.
and so now they're back on land trying to recoup what they missed or what they lost in data on the ship.
Mhm. Well, seems like they're doing okay because we flash back to real time, like, to kinda just jump to the end. I mean, we get to see one of these altered ones be shot up right before, like, this thing looks crazy. It's black got these black eyes. It's got they shot him up with something. It looks
Mm-hmm.
very transformed and like a monster
Yes.
transformed.
Well, and they shot the dart right in that spot where it was indicated at in the book that's shown uh, in the intros.
Mhm.
So in the carotid artery.
Yeah. So all of their research
So
and
it's all
testing,
linking back.
it's resulted in this. And
Mm-hmm.
I think they did have some scenes where we got a flash of like that arena or whatever, but I had no clue what I was seeing before anything, but I'm like, now it makes sense kind of. I feel like I've seen that arena somewhere. Maybe it was a clip in a preview or something. I don't know, but I wonder if they
Probably,
do
yeah.
this for everyone that they think is a traitor. Like, oh, this person is against us. Let them fight them.
I I don't know. I mean, the people like a spectacle, and they're all about him taking him out.
Mhm.
And we also know that the one bad guy is, you killed my brother. This is for him. So I hope at some point he dies here pretty soon. And
Oh, I think
because we
he
know Daryl will make
is.
it.
Yeah, I think he's gonna die still. I think in the preview there might have been some Walker person that looked like him, kind of. I don't know. I was trying to look at the preview of the finale a little bit harder. So I think he
Same
definitely
here.
dies. So he turns. And yeah, we're gonna see that. I think, unless it was someone else, it's hard to tell. It
Well,
goes so
and there's
fast.
also I mean, and there's the question of, so Daryl now knows that these guys are responsible for most of the variants,
Hmm.
and so if he shuts these guys down, does that mean the end of the variants?
Well,
And how do
maybe
they
the
get
end
over
of
to the
new
U.S.?
ones. Maybe.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the ones that are already out in the wild, and I'm gonna go with either they were releasing him to see what they would do, kind of like the CRM was doing, or they just escaped. Because with some of the things that they're doing, it would probably be pretty easy for these things to escape.
I mean, with
The
how
acid
fast they
walkers
run,
come to mind.
absolutely. How do you catch it? It's running.
Right. Well, it's the acid walkers I was specifically thinking of. I mean, if you got them in a cage and they're spewing acid, it's not like they're going to be easy to keep hold of.
Yeah, or that,
So, the
both of
fast
them.
ones as
Yeah.
well. So, the
Hmm.
climbers, the runners, so on and
I
so
would
forth.
like to
But
know
you
the
kind of,
motivation, though. What do you think? Like their
that's what,
motive for
that,
doing this?
well, that's what I was just going to say. I mean, so we know that Janae she's saying, these bad people, the rich ones, they caused this plague, they caused this, but they're gone now and we can rise up. So why are they trying to make these things stronger, smarter, faster? It doesn't make any sense.
No.
uh, we have no idea what her motivations are, other than she's psychotic.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, because how does this one American tie into the message she was giving?
Right.
I
Well,
don't know.
we know that she's gonna present Laurent as a way to try and unify all of France, since the religious groups, the outliers, you know want to follow him. So it's her way of saying, hey, look who I got. And killing him does two things: one, it'll crush Laurent, and two, it'll make the one angry man happy.
Mhm. I
But
guess.
when she had Laurent in her office, and she's like, you need to make him do what I say. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry. All right, Hulk. And
Ugh.
she, and he's like, you're not angry. You're sad.
Yeah. He's a
And
little
you can
creepy little
see,
kid.
well, in the converse throughout that, everything he was saying to her, she's a liar. No, you're not angry. You're sad. This, that, and the other, contradicting her. By the end of the conversation, she's looking at him like, I don't like this kid.
No.
And she was looking a little more unsure of herself.
Well,
So that's
the
different.
the plan must go on, right? So she's like, even if
Exactly.
she's paused for a moment, it doesn't matter. She's gonna
Right.
full steam ahead.
Well, and I think, well, I think, and she thinks if she kills off Daryl, it'll be, part of the breaking of Laurent, to make him a little more malleable. Look what I
hmm
did.
hmm Probably,
So,
probably. But
mm-hmm,
speaking of Laurent, let's talk about that whole like trip as they were trying to get where they're going. Oh my gosh, that was crazy. Um,
yeah,
I so I like the introduction of that one guy. We got to know him a little bit, and he is the one
mm-hmm,
that's talking to Daryl as we're getting Daryl's flashbacks. But then to see
mm-hmm.
him go out like that, I was like, dang, I didn't know he was gonna die so fast. Like,
Well, even with
dang.
a little bit of humor.
Yeah, like, oh my
God has a
gosh.
sense of humor. My dad was worked for the telephone company his whole life.
I know, and then a telephone pole takes him out. Like,
Takes him
damn.
out.
Oh my gosh. Dreadful. I felt bad for
I
the
know.
guy. And then I felt bad for Laurent, although now, and of course, Daryl reacts as Daryl reacts when he goes and they're like, we have to leave. He gets back to the boat and it's gone.
Yeah.
Man, he was pissed off. He was so mad. Like, did you
Yeah.
do this? Blah. He went off on him.
Well, honestly, I would have too.
Yeah.
I mean,
Little
truthfully,
brat,
I mean,
what are you doing?
because going on land is dangerous.
Yeah.
It just is. The river is, was a fairly safe way for them to traverse this.
Mm-hmm.
And by Laurent letting the boat go, it's pretty much condemned them to getting caught. And Daryl knows this
Yes.
because there's no way that they can stay ahead of people looking for them with cars.
Right.
They just can't.
They can't.
So
He knew it
he
and they
knows.
got caught.
Yeah, and there's also because Daryl was supposed to leave several episodes ago and go on his own to get the boat, and he's continued to stick around because he was needed.
Mm-hmm.
And and he's just like, oh my god, this fucking kid.
This effing kid. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I kind of get Laurent's, because he is so unworldly. Even Daryl trying to teach him how to, gut a fish. I
Mm-hmm.
don't eat meat. Well, you're gonna have to if you're
He
gonna
said, I
survive.
don't eat animals. I promised God or something. And the guy's
Mm-hmm.
like, look, you can't starve. So you'll be forgiven. He
Yeah,
lets it
God will
go. It's
forgive you
fine.
for, you know, for
Yeah.
for things that are a necessity.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, in the previews for next week, Laurent uses that particular line,
Mm-hmm.
so he's kind of taken it to heart.
Yeah, he's a very literal
But
kid, I think, like
mm-hmm.
I guess he's learning, trying to learn quickly.
Yeah.
Although he still
Well, and
doesn't
Daryl's.
really learn.
I mean, Daryl's trying to teach him, but this isn't a kid that has ever been in survival mode. He's always been in a safe environment. The most he's had to do is hide. If strangers came in, and that's it. He has no skills with Walker, no skills to keep himself alive. Again, he is very book smart, but he has no survival skills.
Absolutely none.
And Daryl's trying to change that, and he has a lot of fear that this kid isn't going to make it because he doesn't have any survival skills.
Right.
And um his aunt has spent all the time that they've been out protecting him from even seeing things
Mhm.
or understanding the reality of the situation they're in.
Right.
So now that Daryl's alone with this kid, he's like, all right, this is it. You're gonna learn.
He's like, I got however many days until we get to, Mont Saint Michel, the nest, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm gonna push you out here. We're gonna do it because he's worried about him. He is worried about him. He's trying, but
Yeah.
the kid doesn't listen still. So when he drops his stuff on the ground, I'm like, of course he drops it. And he tells him to run. He tells Laurent to run, and he does. But I'm like, he is gonna come back,
Oh yeah.
and he comes back. I'm like, this little. I'm sure it's gonna work out for him because it will.
Yeah.
But still, like, why are
I
kids
mean, at
so hard
least Daryl
headed?
didn't lose an eye. I mean, at
Oh,
least
I
Daryl didn't lose
know.
an eye.
They weren't gonna let him
Get
lose any limbs. We said this before. He's in no danger of
yeah.
losing anything.
Right.
Not
I mean, the
really.
show's named after him. You know,
Yeah,
the show can't go on without him.
right. I kind of think he had
So,
the Rick protection, the character protection that Rick had until he wanted to leave the show. Nothing was going to
mm-hmm.
happen to him that couldn't be undone.
Right.
So
You know,
he's
and
safe.
well, in the conversation that Daryl was having with the Muslim guy, and he's like, "Oh yeah, once you get to the nest, you'll see. You'll become a part of it too." Is essentially
Hmm.
what he was saying. And Daryl's like, "No, I made promises. I have to go home.
Yeah.
Sometimes, you know, promises are overridden by circumstance."
Hmm.
And this guy seemed pretty convinced that as soon as Daryl saw whatever the nest was, he wouldn't leave.
Hmm.
I'm not a religious man. It doesn't matter. You will be by the time we get done with you. You know.
Well, I mean, honestly, Mont Saint Michel is pretty amazing. I was actually there. Once he gets there, he may not want to leave. I know I've seen some screenshots of that place, and I'm like, it is amazing. I could see why people, great minds and all of the history there and stuff. Oh yeah, everyone's gonna be so smart and worldly and welcoming and God fearing. Of course, no one wants to leave. So I don't know. I get it. Just based on what I know of the place.
Yeah.
But Daryl's still gonna be like, I gotta get home. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not
I gotta go
staying
home.
here. They could try, but he's not gonna stay. Oh my gosh. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Isabel. Oh my gosh. Uh I felt a little bad for her as well. So she is holed up in that mansion or whatever
Mm-hmm.
with Quinn, and it seems like almost immediately, like, so she finds the weapon, she's filing it down, and I'm like, oh yeah, she's gonna try to kill him. And instead, the very first thing, it's like she is already thinking about cutting herself. I'm like, wow, did that break down really fast.
Well, she was gonna kill him, and then he's like, "Well, maybe this is Abraham was willing to sacrifice his son for salvation. Maybe this is
He's
my
talking about
salvation."
redemption and all of that. She felt bad
Right.
for him, but
Right.
still.
So she backed off. So then since she couldn't kill him, then she's like, "Oh, I guess I'm gonna kill me."
Well, and that's just it. I'm like, is she gonna try to commit suicide, or is she just going back to cutting herself? Because she had all those marks there. So she's a cutter.
Right.
So I'm
I'm gonna
like, is
go with
she?
she was gonna kill herself.
You think so?
Yeah. But then the note. But we don't know what the note said.
No, we don't know what it said, and we don't know who sent it.
But it did inspire her to go, "Hey, I want to go with you."
Yeah.
So it makes me wonder what was in that note. Is it
Maybe that Laurent would be there.
or Laurent was caught?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm like, what would make
But
her? Because she changed her tune really quick. When he came in, her attitude was different. Her demeanor
mm-hmm.
was different. She had a
Well, and
goal.
and I don't know that it was Laurent, honestly, because when she saw Daryl, she looked surprised.
Yeah.
So I think the note said something else, but I have no, they didn't show it, but it must have
Maybe
been
it was
something.
what's the girlfriend's name? The other girl that was
The
Quinn's
nun, the
no, the Quinn's ex-girlfriend who ratted him out.
yeah,
What's
I don't
her?
remember her name, but
I think maybe
bar
she
girlfriend,
wrote the note.
maybe. Well, and it did come with fresh eggs, and she was always really good at acquiring things, so could
Mhm.
be.
Yeah. Maybe she said something about him going to be taken down or work together or something. I wonder. Hmm.
Yeah, I imagine we'll find out next weekend or next week,
Mhm.
but something was said that was important in that, and it had to be someone that had some ties to that chateau because otherwise they never would have gotten close enough to deliver the eggs.
Yeah, it had to be someone that knew the woman who was watching her and had
Mm-hmm.
enough leverage with her that she would actually deliver a note and not get busted. So,
Right.
yeah, someone that lives there or is a part of that group. So I'm thinking it's her. It's got to be her. She's got the motive,
More than likely.
to work against,
Mm-hmm.
work with her against him.
Yeah.
Hmm. See, so many things. I love it. This was a good episode. There's a lot of things going on. I did really like it.
Well, and we've only got one episode left, so we're gonna have they're gonna have to start tying things up. They got an hour to put together what they've unraveled this past 5 episodes.
Yeah. So I am wondering, like, if it's going to be one of these obvious cliffhanger situations where they kind of already knew they were getting a season two, or if it's going to be one of the type of finales where it could go either way because they weren't sure if they were going to get a season two.
I don't know. I'm kind of hoping it's one that it can go either way. Even though we know that there's a season two, it'd be nice if
Mm-hmm.
they didn't feel they could string out a lot of the stuff. Oh, we have four more seasons in which to drag this out with.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be kind of nice if we had, I mean, not absolute closure, obviously, since we do have a second season, but at least some of these things put to rest one way or the
Yeah.
other.
Yeah.
You know,
I like those kind
I
of
would.
season finales. It's like, okay, I'm satisfied if it's the end, but there's more if it's not.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to know more about Janae's motivations, why she's doing this, why are they making these monstrous monsters, you know
Mm-hmm.
what's the end game here for her, why does she
Mm-hmm.
feel that this, because these things aren't exactly under control, so what's the point? I would,
Right.
even if it doesn't make any flippin' sense, it would be nice to know what her motivation is behind doing this,
Yeah.
because obviously she has a lot of contempt for the ones that initially created the zombies.
Right.
So why this? Why is she doing this? What's
I don't
her
know.
end game? That's the big one for me. I want to know what her end game is more than anything else.
Yeah. I think okay, so if I had a mini wish list for the finale, I agree with you on the end game. That would be lovely to know. I would be satisfied with it. I want Laurent and his aunt Isabel to make it to Mont Saint Michel and in one piece. And I don't know. I don't know what else. I'd like to see I think I want to see Carol on screen. I would love that. I don't know how or when or why. I mean, like, I don't know exactly how they're going to explain how she got there so fast and how she found him, blah, blah, blah. We'll just assume it's because her awesome tracking skills, I guess. Um, but I would love to see those things. Check those boxes in the finale and I'll be happy with it. But then they're going to have to leave some kind of breadcrumb for him to stay there longer.
Yeah. Well, it could be
So,
once we know what her motivation is. It could be we have to stop this before she unleashes, even more hell on earth.
yeah.
Because if they can stabilize the walkers, with the berserker ones, like they let loose on Daryl, if
Mhm.
they let those loose in, just out, that's pretty much that's the end. That's end game right there.
Yeah.
Because part of the reason that as many people have survived as they have is because for the most part the walkers don't move fast. They're very predictable. they're not that bright, you know.
Right.
And so because they walk at a shuffling pace, so now what makes them so dangerous is they never stop,
Mhm.
and people have to rest, and that's what the big issue is. But for the most part, you can outwit them, out maneuver them.
Mhm.
But you let these berserkers loose, and if they're stabilized, I mean, that's most almost all this. Very few. There would be very very few survivors left
Yeah, it would
because.
be devastating.
Mm-hmm.
It would be.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And I know we also have to see him fight that one in the ring. We're going to see that fight
Mm-hmm.
right when it starts. Hopefully that fight isn't too long. Couple minutes.
Well, in a fight like that, it's either going to be short or he's going to be dead.
Mhm.
Unless they haven't figured out how to stabilize these guys yet, and they just explode after what 37 seconds, I think is
Yeah.
what it was. So if he can survive 37 seconds, he should be okay.
So he has to
Unless
either
they got.
kill it, survive, or survive and escape.
Yeah.
And he has to escape with Isabel and Laurent. So
Yep.
there's gonna be, and I did see the black nun. What's her name? What was the lady's name? She was in
I hate
line. Did you
Austrian
see her?
names. Yeah, I did.
So I'm like, okay, maybe there's gonna be some coordinated something going on here, and they have some help from the bar ex that turned him
Mm-hmm.
on him, turned on
Yep.
Quinn. So it's gonna be some kind of coordinated thing with unlikely help to get out of that, I think.
Yeah.
Hmm. Well, I don't know. Uh, is there anything else? Anything else on this episode? Did we
No,
catch
because
all the points?
I think we did. I mean, there was a lot going on, but it was all concentrated in these very specific places.
Yeah.
So we've hit all those highlights.
I like it this way though because it honestly it keeps the plot tight and moving forward. We don't have to linger. All of these little strings move the plot forward in a significant way in one episode.
Mm-hmm. And I liked it.
Yeah. I'm like, why can't every episode be like this? Like really snappy and moving, and I wish they could be like that.
I do too.
Yeah.
If they could all be, if we'd had a season of this type of episode, I would be absolutely ecstatic. But honestly, I will say that aside from last week's episode, I thought most of them moved along pretty quickly. Last week's kind of drug, but and I have a feeling that next week's episode is gonna snap, and it's gonna have to.
Yeah, they've got a lot of ground to cover in 1 hour.
Uh huh.
And especially if they're going to do the tie off with the possibility of continuation, they've got a lot to tie off really quickly. So I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It may be really good or haphazard because they're trying to rush everything so hard. I don't know.
Well, I do
Maybe.
know they wrapped the filming for Daryl Dixon before they got the final green light that they would have a second season. Now that doesn't mean they couldn't go back and change some things up and refilm some of the ending.
Yeah, or they could have filmed two endings. You know how they do sometimes for
Yeah,
movies and stuff.
right. And they could have done that as well.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. And then after that, is it the same week or the next week when Fear comes back? Is it next week too?
Let me look. I was thinking it was the following week, but I could be wrong. Let's see. Well, we got Sunday. Yeah, this Sunday is just Daryl Dixon, and then Sorry, my
Okay, so
eggs were
they're
were.
pacing it. They're making us
Yep.
wait. Okay, so we
Fear the
have one
Walking Dead
more.
isn't starts in 13 days.
Okay, we got one more, and then we get the conclusion of Fear the Walking Dead, which I'm actually excited for. I think it's gonna be good. I'm starting to feel more excited for it.
Mm-hmm.
I think the stuff I've seen is it's gonna be good. So I can't believe like at the end of this, two of the original shows are gonna be done. Like, wow, what's left?
Mm-hmm. Well, Daryl Dixon. Yeah.
I know, but I'm like,
and and Dead
I
City and uh, the ones who
those
live.
those who live, which I think I really feel like that's going to be a one season show.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it needs to be because the way they keep trying to run the threads through these other shows, they can't intend on that running for a long time. And then they're
Right.
going to feed things back through the other shows in some kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
This was their alternative to doing a movie. Remember they were trying to do that three-part movie
Yeah.
nonsense?
Mm-hmm. And then that all went, that collapsed, COVID and such.
Yeah.
So,
So I think this is like in lieu of that, and this is going to make a way from them to weave characters back around to other shows. I think.
yep.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll have to see how it goes. But okay, so I think that's it.
I think that is it.
Okay, so it's been a great conversation today. Good episode to talk about. If you're still listening, thanks for listening to the entire episode. We appreciate you for doing that. Don't forget to subscribe and like the episode and share it with other TWD fans. And we'll see you next week. And until then, take care of yourselves. Bye, guys.
Bye bye.